Okay, so now it's time to build a website, and of course the first thing is to buy a domain and also a hosting plan. I'm going to show you how to buy a domain and walk you through buying the whole thing. I found a domain name called Forge. So I always prefer buying, shorter domain names like, a 1 syllable or 2 syllable at most sort of like thing. Well, generally when buying domains, the shorter generally the better, right? Because it's easier to type, it's easier to remember, and well, you get further with the kind of domain, and when you resell them, right, it will be easy to resell them. Now, one tip I can show you is if you go into places like flippa.com, which it's a marketplace for you to buy and sell websites, domain names. Well, take a look around and see, what sort of like domain names or websites are worth a lot in money. That will give you an idea of what kind of domain names to buy and what you should avoid. I have forge.my. It's a nice quick name. I can use this, continue. I'm just going to register with it and start a site with this. Okay. And if you're buying a domain name with a country extension like .my or .com.my, you would have to register with your IC or your company details because, well, these are information that the government wants. I'm going to put in my IC. And of course, when you are buying something from any domain registrars or hosting, you'll find that there's going to be a lot of upsells from, getting an email, getting hosting and all that. Well, you can buy them if you want to. Okay, and continue. Okay, so again, you will have so much better offers if you were to, add on some offers like a hosting plan on top of your domain, which you should. And I think it makes things easier if you're hosting it on exabytes and also buying the domain for exabytes because it's all linked together. But because I already have a hosting plan elsewhere, I'm going to be leveraging on that because I'm already paying for that, right? So why pay more? And let's go to check out here. All right, I'm going to choose the touch and go option and click on complete order. Alright, so basically I've paid for the domain and I'm going to go into the dashboard to see if I can start using it. I'm here inside my list of domains in exabytes and you can see that forge.my is still pending. What's going to happen is I'm going to receive an email from mynick, which is this one here, mynick. What does it stand for? So I'll be receiving an email from mynick for me to complete the registrations, and before I can use a domain, I would have to point the domain towards a hosting plan, which I'll also show you in this little example here. And after we have done that, we'll install something like maybe WordPress or use Shopify with it, whichever that is simpler to get a site set up, and I'll catch up with you on that pretty soon. Okay, so a few hours have passed and now the domain should be ready to be used. So I'm going to go back to my email. And you can see that we have 3 emails here. Let's take a look at this one here. So this one is an email from mynick, right? So it just basically tells us that the registration is already complete and now we can start using our domain, point it to a hosting plan and start using it straight away. So this is great. So first of all, we're going to have to create a new password by logging into this link here. I'm going to click on this one here. I'm going to use a username there and then create a quick new password. Okay, so now that our password is created for this login here to mynick, I'm going to click on mynick.my, log in with my email, and then point that domain to my hosting plan. Okay, so we're inside here, and basically what we're going to do is point the domain to our hosting plan. I'm going to click on manage here to manage the domain, and then I'm going to go to name server, and you can see that this is pointed to ns184mschosting.com. right? So basically to start using a domain name, you have to point a domain name to a host or basically a server. So the server that I'm using is basically Namecheap. So I'm going to log into my hosting plan. But before this, I'm going to change the name server to point to the name server of my server. So I'm going to click on edit, and whatever I'm putting down here is basically my name server for the Namecheap server that I'm using right now. So ns1.jarbrands.com and then name server 2. Okay, and I don't need the name server number 3. Delete that. So depending where you're buying your hosting from, make sure to get the correct name servers. Don't point it to ns1.jarbrands.com because that's mine. That's my server. Point it to the hosting that you have bought, the server that you have registered for. So once you've pointed that, it'll take about up to 24 hours for the name server changes to take effect before it points to the server, but we can go ahead and set up a site on the hosting site. So log into my Namecheap account. I'm going to go down into my hosting list, and then I'm going to go into the hosting service that I have here. I'm going to click on manage, and then log into the hosting service to basically create an account for my website. Quite technical in a way, but if you don't understand how to do this, if you need help, doing any of these things, setting up a site, you can always refer back to your registrar or your hosting company that you bought the server from. Okay, so I'm going to go down and log into WHM. Alright, and what you're looking at right now is basically the back end of the server. I'm going to go down to my list accounts and create a new account for the new site that I've created, or that I'm creating. Create a new account, and then I'm going to go down and type in the domain name, basically for, well, forge.my, right? Let's say username is forge.my. I'm going to use a password generator for this. Okay, and then email. I'm going to use my quick email here. Alright, and we can choose the options for our server. How large is the server, how much bandwidth are we going to allocate for this, and more. So now that I'm going to leave it all as unlimited for now. Then what I'm going to do next is leave all this thing on, detect that for mail, enable all these things here, and then click on create. So basically I'm creating a hosting account for my website, which is forge.my. So when the domain is pointing to the server, this is basically the space that contains all the files, all the website information that will be shown on someone's browser. Okay, so all done. You can see that this is installed. So basically what's going to happen right now is once the name server has pointed from my domain to my hosting account, I'm going to be able to actually go to forge.my and see something here. So when I click on forge.my, it shows back to exabytes because it was previously pointed to exabytes, right? So we'll give it a few minutes to a few hours for it to point to my server. Basically, I will be able to see something on my server. Now, once that is done, the next thing then is to basically install, log into my site and install WordPress or any other site platform that you want on the site and start building a website. So that's basically how you actually buy a domain name, point it to a server and set it up. If you have questions, feel free to always just comment down somewhere below this video or below this post and I'll be there to help. Thanks.